Hello students! This recording is going to be over the founding documents to help you get ready for the state end of course exams. So to start with, we're going to take a look at the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was given the job of writing the Declaration, and it had a few main parts, but basically you can think of it as a breakup letter with the British monarchy. We were declaring that we didn't want to be a part of Great Britain anymore. So in the first section, it just spells out its purpose. So think of this as sort of like an introduction paragraph. So it's explaining, okay, why are we writing this letter in the first place? And it was also laying out basic human rights, sort of setting the stage for the rest of the document. In the second part, that's where it starts laying out specific complaints against the British in general and King George specifically. So it's talking about big problems that the United States has had with the British and with King George. So it's kind of setting the stage for the last part, where it decides, you know what, we have been patient, we've put up with quite a bit, but our concerns haven't been addressed. So we are going to declare ourselves as independent. We are no longer going to be a part of Great Britain. Up next, we have the Articles of Confederation. So you can think of the Articles of Confederation as America's first government, its first constitution. It doesn't say Constitution in the title, but that is essentially what it was. It was America's first government. Unfortunately, it did have quite a few problems, one of which was it had a very weak central government. And so some specific examples, Congress couldn't collect taxes, so it could ask the states for money, but there was nothing that said the states actually had to give it. So chances are the states were really not that excited about giving money to the national government. They would rather keep that money for themselves and do things within their own state. So it was very difficult for Congress to get any money. Congress also could not regulate trade, so this led to a lot of conflicts between the various states since there wasn't really any overarching authority to try and keep them in line. And they also couldn't force anyone to obey the laws that they could make. So whenever Congress decided to make a law, it was basically just a suggestion for the states. There was nothing that Congress could actually do to force the states to follow those laws. So if there was any law that the states disagreed with, they would just ignore it. Finally, in order to get any laws passed, you needed to get at least 9 of the 13 states to pass the law. Especially the differences between northern and southern states. It was very difficult to get that many to agree on anything. So it was extremely difficult to pass a law. And each state only had one vote, so some states had a lot more population than others. But regardless of their population, each state had exactly one vote. And one of the biggest weaknesses, though, was that there was only Congress. That was the only branch of government at the time. There was no executive branch, there were no judicial branches. So that is the Articles of Confederation. And then finally we get to the U.S. Constitution. The current Constitution, the current government that we actually have now. Okay, so in Article 1, this is where Congress is essentially built. So it spells out exactly what powers Congress has. It spells out terms, qualifications for being in Congress, all sorts of stuff like that. So this is the article where Congress gets all of its power. And then in Article 2, that covers the executive branch. So this spells out how the president gets elected, what their specific powers are, and goes into detail setting up the executive branch. Article 3 is the judicial branch. This one is a little bit shorter than the others. The Supreme Court gets its power here, and it is set up there. but it doesn't give the court a whole lot of specific powers. So this article is actually a little bit shorter than some of the other ones. These are the main 3 articles that you're going to need to know a little bit more about, but it is worth covering the others, so we're going to go ahead and do that as well. So with Article 4, this one was basically helping to spell out relationships between the various states. So essentially saying things like if a citizen from Virginia went to visit Massachusetts, they would still have the same rights and privileges of citizenship. Even though they belonged to different states, they were still in the same country, so they would still have the basic rights of citizenship. Article 5, pretty straightforward there. That is just spelling out how to amend the Constitution. So just a reminder there, you need to get 2/3 of both houses to agree to pass an amendment, and even after that happens, it's still not a formal amendment to the Constitution. After that point, you still have to get 3/4 of the states to sign off on it. So Article 5 spells out how to amend the Constitution. Article 6, for this one, basically you just need to know that Article 6 is what declares the national government supreme or above the state governments. So whenever there is a conflict between the national government and the state government, the national government's laws take precedent. They are the ones that are going to win most of the time. And then finally, Article 7 is ratification. So that is just spelling out exactly what needs to happen for the Constitution to be ratified.